So now we can talk about the Renaissance in various areas. Now the Proto-Renaissance is clear, this coming into being. We can move on to various areas. And the first one we'll look at is Florence. And here's a map again of the area of Florence. And you'll notice that its nearest city-states are Siena, and they're also very close to the Papal States, the states of the Church. And so Florence actually isn't that very big of an area, but they were very influential in pretty much every area of life during the Renaissance time of arts, culture, banking, pretty much everything. They're very influential. And they used a lot of their art to illustrate um, the various interactions, right, they had with other city states. Donatello's David, for instance, was actually commissioned to celebrate the Florentine victory over the city-state of Naples. So it's not just a biblical piece in some ways; it's also a very political piece. But David, this idea of the small guy, right, who defeats the giant, right, David and Goliath. Florentines sort of looked at this as a symbol of how a small city-state like theirs could be so prosperous, right, and could be so independent. And so the famous family, the Medici, who were well known in Florentine lore, they were bankers, very, very powerful people. The Medici actually commissioned this piece from Donatello to represent this idea of the small but the mighty. And it's an interesting vision of David because he's shown very young. Some people suggest he's rather feminized. But the way I see him represented is it's kind of going back to those classic Greek statues, right, of these nude men. So I see that being the inspiration, the sort of Greco-Roman inspiration for why you would have him shown in this manner. And one thing I want to point out is you'll see three different versions of David in the class because you have Donatello's, Michelangelo's, and then Bernini's. They're all very famous. This one you'll notice he's shown very youthful, and he's also shown after he's killed Goliath, right? So he's killed the giant, he's posing with his head, and he's victorious. And again, if you look at some of these Greco-Roman influences, hopefully you can notice how the way that David's body is shown has a lot of reference points to what it's drawing from, right? So this is Polyclitus, the spear bearer, a great example of Greek depiction of the body. Another famous Florentine piece you can look at, of course, is Botticelli's Birth of Venus. This was another Medici commission. So again, you can see how the Medici were very involved in the arts at this time. And it is said that they actually wanted this piece made because they wanted it to sort of bother people or bother the status quo. Because really up until this time, you hadn't seen a lot of use of nudity or paganism since the Greek and Roman time periods. You have that 1,000 years of medievalism in between. So there's a lot of talk about how this piece was actually commissioned to be sort of bothersome, right, to the powers that be, and a little irritating, let's say, to them for showing this nude woman in a sense. But it's couched within mythology, so it's a rather convenient cover story if you get my drift. And even Botticelli, when he was questioned about the painting, like, oh, you're showing this nude woman. He was like, yeah, but Pomona's running out of the forest with this garment for her, so she's about to be covered up. And of course, we just sit and chuckle because it's a painting. It's never going to be covered up, right? So that's really beside the point. And I wanted to just mention nude and naked. Nude is when something's presented to you for your satisfaction. So when someone without clothes is meant to be titillating to you or exciting to you, that's a nude. And if it's just somebody without clothes and they're just in their natural state of being, it's not sexualized in any way, that's naked. So I joke often that nudists are rather poorly named because they're really nakedists. They're not nudists because they're not trying to be sexualized. They just don't like wearing clothes. So nude is sexualized, naked is not. It's just without clothing on. This piece is often referenced as being sort of a beautiful indication of this transition from the old medieval ways, all this decorative quality. It's a very beautiful painting, lots of patterns and such, lots of color, and then where the Renaissance is going. So it's sort of half and half. And I joke that, when you try out new things, it's not like all of a sudden you just do everything at once. So this piece, it seems to have some medieval inspiration and also, again, is looking forward to the Renaissance as well. So I like how it's kind of poised between those two time periods a bit and gives you a little bit of an insight into that way of thinking about art history.